Now, former Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, is mixing politics with his personal life. In a candid admission about his wife's cheating, he said, "There has to be a reason why anybody has an affair. At the time, she was feeling down, rather neglected. I did bear some responsibility for that. Was I an innocent party terribly let down? No. I had not been as good a husband as I should have been." Now, in our exclusive poll, we asked you, when you were cheated on, whose fault did you think it was? Over half, 52%, said their fault. Nearly a quarter said my fault, and 18% said they both had responsibility. The rest said they didn't know or preferred not to say. So is it refreshing to hear somebody actually take ownership of their partner having an affair?
Yeah, I think it's really refreshing. I think it's really interesting that he has not instantly just exploded with anger and you're this and you're that. He's really thought about the situation and gone, I did actually, you know, not pay her attention and things like that. And so I think it's refreshing to hear somebody admit it. And I think sometimes what happens with a lot of affairs is there's so much anger and hurt, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
And then so much, well, you did this and you did that and get out and blah, blah, blah. But really, if you can just take that moment to sit down...
And think about it.
And think about it and try. And normally that happens through counselling as well, because you do need that mediator there to sit down and try and... You know, there's blame... or not blame, I don't want to say blame, actually, because it's nobody's necessarily anyone's fault, but... just maybe both admit that you do have faults and maybe what's happened is you've stopped talking. Because you do get just wrapped up in your own lives or there's kids involved and, you know, I get a lot of letters where it's... even reading them, you know, the problem page when I get my letters and I read them and I think, you've just stopped listening to each other and you've just stopped talking and you've forgotten that you used to be a couple because life's got involved and one of them is either having an affair or thinking of having an affair. I had an affair when I was married to Shane years ago, and it was just after Jake was a few months old, and it was very much what John Bercow has said that he did, and I'm not blaming. I would never ever condone what I did because I don't think you can, because what I should have done is what I would do now, being older. I should have gone, look, you're absolutely, I feel like unattractive, I feel like I'm just the mom and the housewife and you've no interest. I should have gone to him and said all of those things. And if we don't sort this out, something's going to happen. But I didn't. I fell for someone who came along and made me feel fantastic when my husband wasn't. But ultimately, when I thought about it, I just didn't want to lose what I had.
Sure.
We just needed to sit down and talk. And you know what? When we did and we got over the hurt, and we were both hurt, I was so devastated that I'd hurt Shane so much. And when we did both get over it and we talked about it, I have to say, for the next couple of years, we had the best marriage ever because it really woke us both up.
Made you talk to each other.
Yeah, well, he started, you know, being a bit more attentive. I stopped being so needy, I guess. And it did work for us for a long time after that. You know, obviously it didn't in the end, but...
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, I mean, I feel like an alien took over my body for several years of my life because I am such a different person and live such a different life now than I did certainly in my 40s and until I met Lincoln. And it's been very, you know, public. I've talked about it, that in my previous 2 marriages there was infidelities on both parts. And I could not sit and watch this show if I was looking at old episodes, because my attitude was so different. I realise now how unhappy I was. My depression was very bad. Again, no excuses, just reasons. And certainly Tim would say the same, that we were self-medicating a marriage that should have been over long before it did. And instead of separating and becoming earlier the friends that we are now, opportunity plus temptation plus alcohol equals the act. And we were both trying to fill a void. And it was horrible and it was toxic. And I used to sit on here trying to justify it, saying, you know, oh, for God's sake, infidelity is not the worst thing that can happen in a marriage. Of course it's not. There are far worse things that can happen, because that's what was happening in my marriage. And you said this morning that you guys used to go back and say, oh, my God, she's so unhappy. But I wouldn't accept that I was.
Never did.
Now, in my relationship with Lincoln and sober for so many years now, I could never say that an affair would do anything to help. I mean, to me now, it's so horrific, the thought. I remember Jackie Brambles used to sit on here and she used to say, but, you know, I used to say, what, even if Dave kissed a person, you would end it? And she said, yes, absolutely, I would end it. And I used to say, oh, don't be so ridiculous. Now, absolutely, I would. I couldn't bear the heartbreak of it. So, but, you know, we're getting some really quite upsetting messages from people.
There's a lady...
as regards it as reasons why people do cheat, and I do believe people can come together, but I think mostly it's very, very hard to forgive.
There's a lady here, and, you know, listening to you guys be so honest and open, it's incredible. But she's put, my husband is a wonderful father and a loving husband. However, he's not interested in sex and he won't talk about it. So we've had sex just once in 6 years and I get so upset about it. I feel ashamed and it's knocked my confidence. But recently, it has led me to fantasise about cheating just for sex. I don't want to leave him, but I don't know how to get him to discuss it. If the opportunity arose to sleep with someone else, I can't say that I would be able to refuse it. It's so hard.
It's complicated, isn't it?
It's all easy for people to say you leave, but there's lots of reasons why people stay in marriages that aren't horrible.
Well, like that woman absolutely loves her husband. It's just that missing, and they won't talk.
And that's important. Sex is important.
Well, this is what one other of our viewers, and thank you to everyone who's got in touch with us on this. Since I found out my husband cheated, my whole perspective of marriage, commitment and love has changed. After counselling and learning about where we went wrong, I don't see it as negatively as I once did. Commitment and love all stems from communication, and if you don't talk it out and listen to each other, you will end up with a negative outcome. Now we're in a better place than we were pre-affair, not just us, but our children too. Sometimes it's not worth throwing everything away for one mistake. It's really powerful, really powerful. And thank you to those of you who got in touch.